Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. After their first encounter, Emma couldn't shake the strange feeling that had settled in her chest. It wasn't just the curiosity about this man, it was something deeper, something almost magnetic. She tried to put it out of her mind as she continued with her day, serving coffee and greeting customers, but every time the door chime rang, she found herself looking up, half expecting to see him walk through the door again. But he didn't return. Days passed, and soon, she convinced herself it was nothing more than a brief, fleeting encounter that didn't mean anything. But then, he walked back into the cafe, just like that. The same hoodie, the same dark eyes, but this time, he didn't walk straight to the counter. Instead, he stood by the door, scanning the room, as if looking for someone. Emma's heart skipped a beat. Could it be? Was it really him? She couldn't be sure, but her instincts told her it was. And sure enough, his gaze found hers across the room. He didn't smile right away, but there was something about the way he looked at her, almost like he was trying to read her thoughts. He took a slow step forward, his eyes never leaving hers, and for a brief moment, Emma felt like the world had stopped. The sound of the cafe faded into the background, and all she could hear was the soft thud of her own heartbeat. "Hi again," he said, his voice warm, yet still carrying that hint of mystery. "I was hoping you'd be working today." Emma felt her cheeks flush as she smiled nervously. "I guess it's just fate," she said, the same word he had used last time. She was surprised by how natural it felt to speak to him again. It wasn't like she had never met attractive men before, but there was something different about him. Something magnetic, almost otherworldly. He chuckled softly, the sound low and rich. "I'm starting to think you might be right about that." There was a long pause as they exchanged a silent glance. For a moment, neither of them spoke, the air between them charged with an unspoken connection. Emma was the first to break the silence, feeling a strange pull toward him that she couldn't quite explain. "So, what brings you back to my cafe? Still craving a black coffee?" He smiled, but there was something almost playful in his expression. "Actually, today, I think I'll have something different." "How about a cappuccino?" Emma raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "A cappuccino? Now that's a bit more adventurous, don't you think?" He leaned in slightly, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. "I'm in the mood for something new. And you seem like the kind of person who could introduce me to new things." The comment caught Emma off guard. Was he flirting with her? Or was this just a casual conversation? Either way, she could feel her nerves starting to tangle with excitement. She had to admit, he was different. There was a certain charm about him, something that made her feel like she was part of something bigger than just a random coffee shop interaction. As she prepared his cappuccino, Emma couldn't help but wonder who this man really was. She hadn't heard his name yet, and the air of mystery surrounding him only deepened her curiosity. What was he hiding? And why did she feel like she couldn't stop thinking about him? When she handed him his drink, he gave her a small smile, the kind that made her heart race a little faster. "Thank you, Emma," he said, as if he'd known her name for years. Emma blinked in surprise. "How did you?" He held up a hand, stopping her mid-sentence. "I'm not a stalker, I promise. I just pay attention." A smile tugged at the corners of his lips as he took a sip of his cappuccino. Emma, still a bit dazed, watched him closely. The way he carried himself, the calmness in his movements, it was hard to believe that he wasn't someone important. Maybe not a regular customer, but someone who had his own world, separate from the life she knew. But she wasn't ready to admit that yet. Not out loud. Not when she still couldn't get over how strange it felt that he had returned to her cafe. He finished his cappuccino, setting the empty cup down with a soft clink. "I'll be back tomorrow," he said, his tone more serious now. "Same time, same place." And with that, he turned and walked out, leaving Emma standing there, staring after him once again. What was happening? She had no answers. All she knew was that something about him felt different. And she was starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, she was beginning to feel the same way about him. The next day, Emma found herself nervously waiting for his return. She tried to focus on the tasks at hand, preparing the coffee, cleaning the counter, and chatting with regular customers, but her mind kept drifting back to him. She hadn't realized how much she'd been thinking about him until now. The way he looked at her, the mystery in his eyes, the calmness in his voice, it was all so intriguing, and yet she didn't know anything about him. His name. His past. His reasons for showing up in her life. It was like he was a puzzle, and Emma couldn't help but feel the need to solve it. When the door chime rang again, her heart skipped a beat. She looked up, and there he was. Prince Alexander. At least, that's who he really was, though she didn't know it yet. He was dressed casually again, but today he looked more relaxed, like he had something important to say. He walked up to the counter, his eyes scanning the cafe before they landed on Emma. For a moment, neither of them said anything. The air was thick with unspoken words, an energy that seemed to spark between them. Finally, he broke the silence. "Hey, Emma," he said, his voice carrying a sense of familiarity that made her feel like they were old friends, even though they'd only met a few days ago. "I didn't think I'd get to see you again so soon." Emma smiled, feeling a bit more at ease. "Well, it seems like fate has other plans," she replied, using the same word he had used during their first meeting. He chuckled softly, clearly amused by the fact that they were both talking about fate. "I think you might be right about that," he said, his tone lighter now. "It's funny. I've been thinking a lot about fate since the last time we met. And it's been bugging me, to be honest." Emma raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What do you mean?" He hesitated for a moment, looking down at the counter before meeting her gaze again. "I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like I'm supposed to be here. With you. Talking to you. It's not random, not like how most of the people I meet are. There's something about this, about us, that feels important." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't sure why, but his words struck a chord deep within her. She'd been feeling it too, the pull, the connection, but hearing him say it out loud made it all the more real. She cleared her throat, trying to stay calm. I don't know about all that. I mean, I don't really believe in fate. But I do believe in the connections we make with people. And I guess I'm starting to feel like there's something special about this. He smiled softly, his expression thoughtful. I'm glad you feel that way. Before either of them could say anything more, Emma's boss, Greg, walked over, carrying a tray of cups. Emma, can you get that order for table 4? They're waiting. Emma gave a small nod, grateful for the interruption that helped break the tension in the air. Sure, I'll be right back, she said to Alexander, before turning to grab the tray. As she walked away, she couldn't help but glance back at him. He was still standing there, watching her, his eyes never leaving hers. She quickly turned her attention back to the task at hand, but the thought of him lingered in her mind, like an unspoken promise hanging in the air. When she returned to the counter, Alexander was still there, waiting. He gave her a small smile as she set down the tray. So, he began, his voice taking on a more serious tone, I've been thinking about us. Emma felt her heart race. What about us? She asked, a little surprised by the sudden shift in his demeanor. I don't know what it is, Emma, he said, his eyes searching hers as if trying to find the right words. But I feel like there's something here. Something I can't ignore. I've been living a lie for a long time, pretending to be someone I'm not. And it's exhausting. But when I'm around you, I don't feel like I have to pretend. Like I can just be me. His words hit her like a wave, leaving her breathless. She didn't know what to say. Part of her wanted to ask him more, to get answers about who he really was and why he felt this way. But another part of her was terrified that the connection they shared might not be as simple as she thought. That it might be something far more complicated than either of them were ready to deal with. Before she could respond, he smiled again, a little more relaxed this time. I know this is a lot to take in. And I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted to be honest with you. And, well, I guess I'll see you tomorrow, yeah? Emma nodded slowly, feeling a mix of emotions she couldn't quite process. Yeah. I'll see you tomorrow. He gave her a small wave and walked out of the cafe, leaving Emma standing there, her mind racing. What had just happened? She had no answers, but one thing was clear, she couldn't stop thinking about him. And no matter how hard she tried to push it away, she knew this connection was far from over. The next few days passed in a blur for Emma. She couldn't stop thinking about Prince Alexander, though, of course, she still had no idea who he really was. His words from their last encounter echoed in her mind, and despite her best efforts to focus on her work, she found herself daydreaming about him more than she'd like to admit. She had never met anyone quite like him. There was a quiet intensity about him, a mystery she couldn't quite figure out. And every time she saw him, she felt like she was drawn into his world, even though she knew so little about it. But there was something else, too, something that had started to worry her. As much as she felt this pull toward him, she wasn't sure she could fully trust it. She'd heard about people who pretended to be someone they weren't, who used charm and mystery to draw others in. Was he one of those people? Or was he truly genuine? Emma shook her head, trying to clear her thoughts as she prepared the coffee for her next customer. She couldn't keep second-guessing everything. Just as she was about to hand a cappuccino to a customer, the door chimed again, and she instinctively looked up. There he was, Alexander. This time, he didn't seem as casual as before. His gaze was a little more serious, as though he had something important to say. He walked up to the counter, and without missing a beat, he spoke. "Hey, Emma," he said, his voice steady. "I need to talk to you." Emma's heart raced at the tone of his voice. It was different from their previous conversations. This wasn't small talk or casual flirting. He was serious. She set the cappuccino down on the counter and looked at him. "Of course," she replied, trying to keep her voice calm, though her nerves were getting the best of her. He glanced around, as if making sure no one else was paying attention, before leaning in slightly. "I need to be honest with you about something," he said, his voice low. Emma's curiosity deepened. "What is it?" Alexander took a deep breath before speaking again. "I've been living a lie. A big one." He paused, as if struggling to find the right words. "The truth is, I'm not just some guy who's passing through. I'm not just a random customer who likes to visit coffee shops." Emma frowned, confused. "What do you mean? You're not just a regular guy?" Alexander's eyes met hers, and for the first time, she saw a flicker of vulnerability in them. "No. I'm not. I'm Prince Alexander. I'm the heir to the throne. I've been living in hiding for the past few years." Emma's heart stopped for a moment. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Prince? He was a prince. This man, this mysterious barista, was actually royalty. "You're a prince?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He nodded slowly. "Yes. I know this is a lot to take in, and I never planned on telling you this. But I feel like I owe it to you. I don't want to lie to you anymore." Emma felt her mind racing as she tried to process what he had just said. A prince. Living in hiding. It sounded like something out of a fairy tale, not the reality she had known. She didn't know what to say. Part of her wanted to laugh, to dismiss it as some sort of joke. But the look in his eyes told her it wasn't a joke. It was the truth. "I don't know what to say," Emma whispered, still trying to make sense of it all. "I didn't want to tell you this," he said again, his voice softer now. "But I can't keep pretending to be someone I'm not. I care about you, Emma. And I didn't want to get you involved in my world, but now that we've gotten close, I can't hide it anymore." Emma was silent for a moment, trying to wrap her head around the truth. She wasn't sure how she felt, surprised, confused, maybe even a little scared. But there was one thing she knew for sure. She was still drawn to him. Even if he was a prince, even if everything had changed, she couldn't deny the connection they had. "I don't know what to do with this information," she said finally, her voice shaky. "This is a lot. I need time to think." Alexander nodded, understanding. "I get it. Take all the time you need. But I wanted you to know the truth. No more secrets." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small card, placing it on the counter. "Here's my number. If you want to talk, if you need anything, just call me. I mean it." With that, he turned and walked out of the cafe, leaving Emma standing there, staring at the card in her hand. Her mind was spinning, and she had more questions than answers. But one thing was certain, her life had just changed. She was no longer just Emma, the barista. She was now connected to a world she couldn't even begin to understand, a world full of secrets, royal duties, and a man who had just confessed the truth to her. And now, she had to decide what to do with it. Emma sat in the quiet corner of the cafe, staring at the small card in her hand. It was a simple white card with a phone number written in neat black ink. Prince Alexander was all it said on the card, but it felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. She couldn't stop replaying their conversation over and over in her mind. A prince. A real-life prince, and he had been standing right in front of her, telling her his truth. It didn't seem real. She had always dreamed of something more, but she never imagined it would look like this. She never imagined it would come in the form of a man who worked as a barista, hiding his royal identity. She stared at the card for a long time, the overwhelming realization settling in. Her whole world had just shifted. How was she supposed to process this? How was she supposed to act around him knowing what she knew now? Everything had been so casual before, so easy. But now, everything felt different. The stakes felt higher. What if she wasn't prepared for the life he was leading? What if he had more baggage than she was ready to handle? A million questions filled her mind, but there was one she couldn't shake. Why had he chosen to tell her? He could have kept his secret hidden, just like he had been doing for years. He didn't have to involve her. Yet, here she was, sitting with his phone number, knowing something about him that no one else did. Emma's thoughts were interrupted by a familiar sound, the door chime. She looked up, and to her surprise, there he was. Prince Alexander. He was standing in the doorway of the cafe, looking just as calm and collected as he always did, but today, his expression seemed more serious. More determined. He was dressed casually, as usual, but there was an intensity in his eyes that made her heart race. She stood up as he approached the counter. "Hey, Emma," he said softly, his voice carrying a sense of urgency. "I didn't want to leave things like we did yesterday. I know it's a lot to take in, but I couldn't just leave without saying one more thing." Emma's breath caught in her throat. "What is it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He took a step closer, his gaze locking with hers. "I need to be honest with you, even more than I was yesterday. I'm not just a prince in hiding, Emma. There's more to it than that. I've been avoiding my responsibilities. My family. My duties." Emma's heart pounded in her chest. "What do you mean?" "I mean," he began, running a hand through his hair, "I've been living this double life for so long. Being here, pretending to be someone I'm not. I've been avoiding the truth about who I really am, about what I have to do. But I can't keep doing it anymore. I can't keep running away." Emma felt a pang of sympathy, mixed with confusion. "So, what does that mean for us? For me?" "I don't know," he said, his voice tinged with uncertainty. "I can't promise you anything right now. But I want you to know that I care about you. More than I should, maybe. And I can't let this connection between us slip away just because of who I am." She felt a knot form in her stomach. He was right. There was something between them, something real. But was it enough to overcome everything else? His life was a world apart from hers, filled with duty, expectation, and secrecy. Could she handle it? Could she be a part of that world? "Alex," she started, but the words felt heavy in her mouth. She wasn't sure what to say, or if there was anything she could say. "Look," he continued, "I know this is all a lot to process. And I'm not asking you to make any decisions right now. I just want you to know the truth. And if you're willing to take the chance, to get to know me, then maybe we can figure it out together." Emma looked at him, her heart in her throat. She had so many questions, so many uncertainties. But in that moment, she knew one thing for sure. She wasn't ready to let go of what they had. Not yet. Not when it felt like something so much bigger than a simple coffee shop encounter. I don't know what's going to happen, she said slowly, but I'm not ready to walk away either. He smiled, a small but genuine smile, and Emma felt a weight lift off her shoulders. I'm glad to hear that, he said, his tone softening. We'll take it one step at a time. No pressure. Just, whatever happens, we figure it out. For the first time in days, Emma felt a sense of peace wash over her. Maybe this wasn't going to be easy. Maybe she didn't have all the answers. But one thing was clear, they weren't done yet. There was something there. And for now, that was enough. As Alexander turned to leave, he paused at the door and looked back at her. I'll see you tomorrow, he said, his voice full of promise. And with that, he was gone, leaving Emma standing there, her heart full of questions and hope. The days that followed felt like a whirlwind for Emma. She couldn't stop thinking about Alexander. Every time she closed her eyes, his face would appear, his calm, reassuring smile, his eyes that seemed to see right through her. But now, the weight of his confession hung heavily in the air. He was a prince, hiding from his royal responsibilities. She knew he hadn't come to her just because he wanted a quiet life. There was so much more to his world than she could possibly understand. Emma tried to focus on her daily routine, but it was impossible to ignore the growing tension in her chest. She didn't know what to do with all the emotions swirling inside her. On one hand, she was drawn to him in a way she couldn't explain, but on the other, she was terrified. Could she handle the pressure of being involved with someone like him? Could she really be a part of his world? The next day, just as she was getting ready for her shift, she received a message from him. The text was short, but it was all she needed. Can we meet after work? There's something important I need to tell you. Her heart skipped a beat. What could he possibly want to talk about now? Hadn't they already been through so much? She stared at her phone for a moment, debating whether to respond. Part of her wanted to just ignore it, pretend like it wasn't happening, but she knew she couldn't. She had to know the truth. She had to hear it from him. After her shift ended, Emma found herself standing outside the cafe, nervously glancing at the street. She didn't know where they were supposed to meet, but she didn't have to wait long. A sleek black car pulled up to the curb, and the door opened. It was Alexander. He was dressed in a tailored suit now, looking every bit the royal he was. For a moment, Emma couldn't help but stare. The transformation was almost surreal. This was the same man who had served her coffee in a hoodie just days ago, but now he looked every inch the prince. He stepped out of the car, his expression serious but still warm. Emma, he said, walking toward her. I'm sorry to pull you into this world so suddenly. I never meant for it to be like this. Emma nodded, her heart racing as she took a step toward him. I didn't expect any of this, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I know, he said softly. And I wish I could have handled it better. But the truth is, I can't keep pretending to be someone I'm not. And I can't keep hiding from my responsibilities. He paused, looking at her with a vulnerability that caught her off guard. The truth is, Emma, my family is forcing me to return. They want me to take my place as the heir. There's no more running from it. And I need you to know. I don't want to lose you. Emma's heart ached as she looked at him. She could see the weight of his words in his eyes. He didn't want to go back, but he had to. The pressure was too much. "I don't want to lose you either," Emma said, her voice shaking. "But I don't know what this means for us. I don't know if I can be a part of your world. It's not just the luxury or the fame. It's everything. The duty. The expectations. The people. Can I really fit into all that?" Alexander reached out and gently took her hand in his. "I don't know what the future holds either," he admitted. "But I know that I want you in it. I can't ask you to be part of something you're not ready for. But I also can't just let you go. Not without giving it a chance. I need you to trust me, Emma. I need you to trust that whatever happens, I will never stop fighting for us." She looked at him, searching his face for any sign of doubt, but all she saw was sincerity. He wasn't asking her for anything, he was just asking for a chance. And that was more than she could ever hope for. "I'm scared," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I'm scared that I won't be able to keep up with you. That I won't be able to handle everything that comes with being with you." Alexander's grip on her hand tightened ever so slightly. "I'm scared too," he confessed. "But I can't let that stop me. I can't let that stop us. I've spent too much of my life running from my destiny. From my responsibilities. But you make me want to face it all. I want to face everything, as long as I have you by my side." Emma felt a tear slip down her cheek, but it wasn't out of sadness. It was out of a deep, overwhelming feeling she couldn't describe. She didn't have all the answers. She didn't know if she was ready for the life he was asking her to share. But she did know one thing, there was no going back now. Whatever this was, whatever they were, she wasn't ready to let it go. "I'm not ready to say goodbye," she said softly, her voice thick with emotion. "Then don't," Alexander said, his voice firm with determination. "We'll figure it out. Together." And with that, he pulled her into a gentle embrace, and for the first time since all of this started, Emma felt like she could breathe again. Whatever the future held, she knew they'd face it together. The days following their conversation were a blur for Emma. Her mind raced with thoughts of Alexander, his words, his touch, the depth of his emotions. She couldn't stop thinking about the life he had to return to, the responsibilities that awaited him, and the future they might, or might not, have together. She knew that their connection was real, but could she truly handle the life of a royal? Could she fit into his world? The more she thought about it, the more she realized how different their worlds were. He came from a family with centuries of history, expectations, and duty. She came from a small town, a simple life filled with small, everyday moments. But the way Alexander had looked at her, the way he had spoken, there was no denying it. He wanted her in his life. And for the first time in a long time, Emma allowed herself to imagine a future that wasn't defined by the café, the ordinary, the predictable. But there was still one thing Emma hadn't considered. What would happen when the truth about Alexander's identity finally reached the public? He had already told her his secret, but could he really hide it from everyone else? Could he maintain his life in the shadows forever? And if not, would she be able to live with the consequences of being part of his world? One evening, just as Emma was closing up the cafe, she received a message from Alexander. The text was brief, but it made her heart race. "I need to see you. It's urgent. Please meet me at the park." She didn't even think twice. She grabbed her coat and headed straight for the park, her mind racing with all sorts of possibilities. What was going on? What did he need to tell her? When she arrived, she saw him standing near the fountain, his figure outlined against the dimming sky. As soon as he saw her, he stepped forward, his face grave. "Emma," he began, his voice low and serious. "There's something I need to tell you. Something that can't wait any longer." She felt her heart drop. "What is it?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper, afraid to hear what was coming next. "I can't keep hiding, Emma," he said, his voice tight with emotion. "The pressure from my family is too much. They've set a date for my return, my official return to the palace. I can't avoid it any longer. It's time for me to take my place as the crown prince." Emma's heart sank as she absorbed his words. "But what does that mean for us?" she asked, her voice trembling. "What happens to everything we've talked about? Everything we've started?" Alexander looked at her, his expression full of sadness. "I don't know. I don't want to leave you, Emma. But I have no choice. The decision is out of my hands now. I have to return to my duties." Tears welled up in Emma's eyes, and she quickly wiped them away. "You can't just disappear on me. You can't just walk away." "I'm not walking away," he said, his voice fierce now. "I want to be with you, Emma. I'm just not sure how to make it work. I'm not sure how to balance the two worlds. I want to be with you, but I also have responsibilities. And they're calling me back, whether I'm ready or not." Emma took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "So what now?" she asked, feeling helpless. "What happens next?" "I don't know," Alexander said, his voice softer now. "But I can't give up on us. Not yet. I need you to know that. I don't have all the answers, Emma, but I can't lose you." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The sound of the fountain was the only noise in the air. Emma looked at him, feeling the weight of the situation pressing down on her chest. She had never been more conflicted in her life. Part of her wanted to run, to escape the chaos that was unfolding. But another part of her, maybe the biggest part, knew she couldn't. She couldn't run from him, from this connection. "I don't want to lose you either," she said finally, her voice steady. "But I can't be the one who holds you back. If this is something you have to do, something you can't avoid, then I'll support you. But I can't live in the shadows forever. I need to know that you're choosing me too. That you're not just doing this because you feel like you have to." Alexander reached for her hand, his grip warm and firm. "I am choosing you, Emma. I promise you that. I just need time to figure out how." And with that, they stood there together, the night growing darker around them, as they faced the uncertain future ahead. Neither of them knew what would happen next, but one thing was certain, they weren't ready to give up on each other just yet. The following days were filled with uncertainty for Emma. She kept replaying that conversation in the park over and over in her mind. Alexander's words echoed in her ears. He wanted to be with her, but his duty to his family was calling him back. The more she thought about it, the more complicated it became. Could she truly live in the shadows, always second to his royal responsibilities? Or would she have to let him go, to allow him to fulfill his destiny, even if it meant breaking her heart? She knew she had to give him space, but every time she thought about him leaving, her heart ached. She couldn't imagine her life without him, but could she really be a part of his world? It was the next weekend when she finally got the call. It wasn't from Alexander, but from a number she didn't recognize. Hesitantly, she answered. "Hello," she said, her voice shaky. "Emma," a voice said, firm but calm. "It's me. Alexander." Her heart skipped a beat. "Alexander? Where are you?" she asked, already knowing the answer. "I'm at the palace," he said. "I'm here with my family, and they're making the final arrangements for my return to the throne. I'm sorry, but I couldn't wait any longer. I needed to see you. I need you to understand something." She took a deep breath, fighting back tears. "I'm listening," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm going to do what's expected of me," he continued. "I can't keep running away. My family needs me. The kingdom needs me. But I want you to know that this decision has nothing to do with you. It's not because I don't want to be with you. It's because I have no choice." Emma felt her chest tighten as he spoke. "But I don't know if I can do this," she whispered, her heart breaking. "I don't know if I can live in a world where I'm not allowed to be with you." Alexander paused for a moment, his voice full of emotion. "I don't want to lose you, Emma. I really don't. But this is my responsibility, my duty. I have to do what's right. Please understand." Tears welled up in Emma's eyes as she listened to him. "I don't want to lose you either," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I don't know how to be a part of your world. I don't know if I can live like this, always waiting for you to choose me over your royal duties." There was a long silence on the other end of the line before Alexander spoke again, his voice soft but determined. "I'm not asking you to wait, Emma. I'm asking you to trust me. I don't know what the future holds, but I promise you that I will always fight for us. No matter where I am, no matter what I have to do, you'll always be a part of my life. I will never forget you. I just need time to figure it all out." Emma closed her eyes, trying to steady her breathing. She didn't have all the answers, and she didn't know what was going to happen. But in that moment, she realized something. She couldn't keep living in fear of the unknown. She couldn't keep wondering what would happen next. If they were meant to be together, they would find a way. "I trust you," she said finally, her voice strong. "I don't know how this will work, but I believe in us. And I'm willing to try." There was a long pause before Alexander finally spoke. "Thank you, Emma. That means everything to me." As she hung up the phone, Emma felt a sense of calm wash over her. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure: she wasn't going to give up on Alexander, and he wasn't going to give up on her. For now, that was enough. They were going to face whatever came next, together. Weeks passed since Emma had spoken those words to Alexander, and while their future was still uncertain, there was a new sense of understanding between them. Alexander had kept his promise to fight for them, reaching out whenever he could, even if it was only through short texts or brief phone calls. Emma had never felt so torn between two worlds. Her life at the cafe, with its comforting routine, felt like a distant memory now. Each day, she grew more accustomed to the idea of being part of Alexander's life, even if it meant facing a world filled with royal duties and public scrutiny. It wasn't easy. The pressure from his family was mounting, and the media had begun to take notice of their relationship. Emma found herself being followed by paparazzi, her every move scrutinized, even though she wasn't the one with a title. It was overwhelming, and at times, she felt like she was losing herself. But despite everything, she held on. She believed in Alexander, and she believed in them. One evening, after a particularly difficult day, Emma received a message from Alexander. The text was simple but loaded with meaning: "Meet me tomorrow. I have something important to tell you." Her heart skipped a beat as she read the message. She knew this moment was coming. He was about to make a choice, one that would determine their future. Emma had spent countless sleepless nights wondering if she was ready to be part of his world. And now, she had to make that decision, too. The next morning, she met him at a small park near the outskirts of the city. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over everything, and there he was, standing under the large oak tree, looking every bit the prince he was, but also the man she had come to love. When he saw her, he smiled, but there was something different in his eyes. Something that made Emma's heart race. "Emma," he said, his voice steady but warm, "I've spent so much time running from what's expected of me, trying to escape my responsibilities. But I realize now that what I'm really running from is you, not in the way you might think, but because I was afraid of how much you mean to me." He paused, taking a deep breath before continuing. "I want you in my life, Emma. Not as some secret. Not as someone I hide away. I want the world to know about us. I want you to be by my side, no matter what comes next." Emma's heart swelled with emotion. She hadn't realized how much she needed to hear those words until they were finally spoken. "Are you sure?" she asked, her voice trembling. "This is your life. Your family. Your future. I don't want to hold you back. I don't want you to regret your choice." Alexander stepped closer, reaching for her hand. "I'm sure. I'm not asking you to give up your life, Emma. I'm asking you to share it with me. I want to face the challenges ahead, and I want to do it with you by my side." Tears welled up in Emma's eyes as she looked at him. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy. But it was real. And for the first time in a long time, she felt certain about something. "I'm with you," she said softly, her voice strong now. "Whatever happens, I'm with you." With those words, the future didn't seem so uncertain anymore. They didn't have all the answers, but they knew one thing: they were no longer afraid to face whatever came next, together. Alexander pulled her into his arms, and as the sun set behind them, Emma knew that no matter what challenges awaited, they would face them as a team. The world may have expected them to follow different paths, but together, they would create their own. And in that moment, surrounded by the quiet peace of the park, Emma knew that this was just the beginning of their story.